I'd like to take a couple of minutes here to talk about the explanation and evidence component to writing for social studies. If you can see on the rubric, there are a couple of different spaces in there in each paragraph. One asks you to give and hopefully master an explanation for each analysis paragraph, but there's a second piece right in here called evidence, right? So our basic definition, of course, is that the explanation explains how the point strengthens the judgment. Everything, of course, is going back to the thesis statement, so you need to explain why, whatever you're saying in your first paragraph, why that helps with whatever you're saying as far as your thesis statement is concerned. And the second part of this, of course, is the evidence, which means that if you make a claim that something is a certain way, that this is a cause or this is a major effect, these are the key reasons why, these are the key reasons why not, you need to provide evidence for that. What we mean by that is what facts do you actually have that back up what you just said there? What examples do you have? What other details? So these would be the people, the events, these would be dates, these would be your specifics. Are there charts? Are there other primary sources, text or otherwise, that might support your analysis here? Meaning, do they actually legitimize what you're saying in your explanation? You notice in each of the different paragraphs that you have explanation and evidence, and I can give you, or your instructor can give you, points for either of these, but hopefully, obviously, both. Right? So for example, if you explain something but have zero evidence, you could end up with a 3 mastering the explanation. You made a good argument, but you didn't back it up. If you, on the other hand, say the reason why something happened is because of this certain event, but you don't really tie it back to the thesis, I might give you 3 points for the evidence, but 0 or 2 points because you didn't really explain what it had to do with the other part. Note in all 3 paragraphs that you have to do explanation and evidence there. Let me give you another example of what this might look like. So, for example, if we talk about the causes of the American Revolution, let's pretend our question is, what are the key causes of the American Revolution? You might go on to explain it in each of your paragraphs. Number 1, my first paragraph is all about taxes. There were economic reasons. So, colonists were angry about taxes. Then you go on in paragraph 2 and say another reason is politicians thought that Parliament didn't look out for their best interests. And then in your third paragraph, you say there were cultural differences, there were social differences there, that some American colonists didn't feel loyalty towards their fellow citizens in England or towards the government itself. So look, you have 3 different reasons here, which are very good arguments. Taxes, representation, and cultural differences might be your 3 reasons there. Anybody walking down the street might agree that these are the 3 reasons why the American Revolution actually occurred. However, all right, you didn't provide enough evidence. If I go forward ahead here, you can see that there is a whole body of evidence that you may have missed out on. So if I go back to explanation, do I have any evidence that the colonists were angry? Do I have any evidence that politicians thought Parliament didn't look out for their best interests? And do I have evidence about this loyalty piece right there? So, if you, in your next paragraph, or in each of these paragraphs, provide evidence, it's a lot stronger. Well, what happens if you just provided evidence? Right? What happens if you said the cause of the American Revolution were the Stamp Act? It required colonists to pay a special tax on printed documents. What happens if you just said that the House of Burgesses had local control over their citizens and made local decisions and things like that? Or what if in your third paragraph you went right into the fact that American soldiers in the French and Indian War were not used to how the British officers treated their soldiers? And so when you kind of look at these in a broader sense right here, these are basically just a list of important ideas that relate to the question up here about causes, but there's really no analysis. If you look at these are just basically declarative statements here. So when you put it all together, right, and have explanation and evidence together, both parts on the rubric, each worth 3 points in each paragraph for a total of 6 in each paragraph, right? You should be able to explain and give evidence. So for example, if I say many colonists were angry about taxes they felt were unfair, And in 1765, Parliament passed the Stamp Act. It required colonists to pay a special tax on printed documents. And I go on to explain other taxes that caused a lot of anger. Those are the two pieces that we're requiring in social studies. All right? Give the explanation, but back it up with evidence. Down here, I say politicians were mad at Parliament. For example, the House of Burgesses first met, they had taxing power over the citizens, and then I would go on to say that when Parliament, English Parliament, tried to wrest power away from the House of Burgesses, it didn't work out so well, and people thought that Parliament weren't looking out for their best interests. And then in the third paragraph, of course, I would say some Americans felt little loyalty to their citizens, and I would go in and mention that French and Indian War piece. I would maybe go on to talk about other social differences. For example, how diverse the how diverse the colonists were by about the mid part of the 18th century there. And of course, I would give specific examples. I might talk about Native Americans. I might talk about, Dutch or Swedish or even, French and other people that might find themselves in the British colonies at the time. But whatever I say, I'm backing it up with specifics, claim specifics, and that's basically what you want to do to cover all the different pieces to the rubric there. So if you're making a claim, make sure you back that up.